A special thank you to each of our subscribers who make this channel possible. Here's today's story. In a high-stakes diplomatic maneuver, U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff met with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Moscow, aiming to secure a ceasefire agreement in the ongoing conflict between Ukraine and Russia. The urgency of the talks is underscored by President Donald Trump's frustration with Putin's lack of progress in achieving peace in Ukraine. Trump has set a deadline for this Friday, warning that failure to reach an agreement could lead to tougher sanctions against Russia. The proposed sanctions target Russia's so-called shadow fleet of oil tankers, vessels operating under secret ownership that transport oil globally to evade Western sanctions. White House sources indicate that these sanctions would serve as an initial step to compel Putin into a truce, according to reports. However, Kremlin insiders suggest that Putin is unlikely to yield to the ultimatum. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has described a recent conversation with Trump as productive, focusing on the war's end, sanctions on Russia, and finalizing a U.S.-Ukraine drone deal. Amid these discussions, Ukraine's Air Force reported the launch of 45 Iranian-made drones towards Ukraine by Russian forces, with air defenses successfully intercepting 36. However, 9 drones struck various targets, raising concerns over civilian safety and infrastructure. In a separate development, India has expressed its discontent with the U.S.'s threats regarding its purchase of Russian oil, accusing the Trump administration of making unjustified demands. As the geopolitical landscape shifts, Ukraine's defense minister has thanked the U.S. for approving over $200 million in arms deals, which are crucial for bolstering Ukraine's defenses against ongoing Russian aggression. Zelensky condemned recent Russian strikes that targeted civilians and energy infrastructure in Ukraine, describing them as acts of cruelty intended to intimidate. He emphasized that these attacks are an attempt to undermine Ukraine's preparations for winter and called for increased international pressure on Russia to facilitate a ceasefire. The Ukrainian president's remarks highlight the urgent need for a diplomatic solution as the conflict continues to escalate. In a notable military development, Ukrainian special forces claim to have killed over 330 Russian troops in a dawn raid, indicating a significant pushback against Russian advances. The ongoing conflict has seen Russia carry out hundreds of attacks across various regions in Ukraine, resulting in civilian casualties and damage to infrastructure. As the situation unfolds, Witkoff's visit to Moscow marks a critical moment in U.S.-Russia relations and the quest for peace in Ukraine. The dialogue between the two nations continues, with both sides expressing a commitment to seeking a diplomatic resolution, although the path forward remains fraught with challenges. As the deadline approaches, all eyes will be on Putin's response to Trump's ultimatum and the potential implications for global security and stability. That's all for this story. We upload videos every day covering many different subjects, so hit that subscribe button to stay informed. Thanks for watching.